Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Chokola chamanyi nyo kubatenga olinafe always amanya abampita Simple MC aka Kalirugambo Promax or Mukutu Verse Strange 256. If you're watching us for the first time, kindly requesting you to tap the bell, share the video, and of course subscribe okusobola okubanga oli naffe ebbanga lyonna. Olunaku lw'ejjo Bobi Wine happened to meet up with students of a certain university mu ggwanga lya America. Era gwe ssebo bannyabo ataasobodde kulaba byabaddeyo. Njagala you stick to this video mpaka lweggwako osobole okumanya exactly what happened n'ekyatuseewo ate otegeere omukulembeze oba omukulu waatuuse ku nsonga y'okunafuya n'okumaamula n'okukyusa eggwanga Uganda. Bampita Simple katukomewo.
I believe that's the only way we can get there. But most importantly,
to also encourage people, especially you, the young people, to take charge of this and to get involved. Because, yes, I'm here, not because I'm the most educated. And if it was not for the frustration and the anger, maybe I would only come to Columbia University to sing music to you and not to talk politics to you, you know. But here I am. So I want, or we should encourage the young people, especially the ones that have been lucky to get the education and the exposure that you get, to get involved. And when we get involved, then we get to hold our leaders accountable to do the right thing, but not to leave one person to choose. Like I said, leaders don't do the right thing because they are so good-hearted. They do the right thing because they are held accountable and because they know there are consequences to doing the bad thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I had a question with regards to what you see the role of, I guess, continental bodies such as the African Union, East African Community, as well as SADC, with regards to promoting greater accountability for, I guess, democracy within the continent. Because I think right now, you know, we're at a difficult moment where at least the status of democracy across East Africa as well as the continent in general is looking relatively tentative. And, you know, what do you think can be done, at least at an institutional level, as well as, you know, for us as Africans to improve the status of democracy?
Man, in my culture, I'm in Uganda, from central Uganda. In my culture, we are supposed to speak good of home when we are away from home. But again, my big mouth always forces me to speak the damn truth. Now, the regional and continental bodies, there's a difference between what they should be doing and what they're actually doing. These are bodies that we should be reporting to. These are bodies that are supposed to be the remedy to the mess. Unfortunately, they have been reduced to clubs, to presidents' clubs. Take, for example, the East African community. What democracy is going to be discussed between Museveni and Ruto and Uhuru, with all due respect. You know, these are clubs now, they're in my view, they're reduced to clubs of protecting each other's power. No wonder Ugandan security will illegally cross into Kenya under the watch of Kenyan security, abduct Dr. Kiza Besigye, put him in a car boot, and drive him across the border illegally against international law. And they will not only be inactive, they will not only do nothing, but they will also say nothing. I mean, elections have been rigged, and you know, all that has been swept under the carpet by regional bodies that, like the East African Community and the African Union. You know, look how much trouble is going on in South Africa. I am yet to hear a word from the African Union. In many ways, the people of East Africa and largely Africa are on their own. Maybe this calls for the rise of a new generation to do different. But as of now, the East African community is nothing worth its name. And so is the African Union.
No, and I mean, just to highlight what you're saying, I mean, after the elections in Tanzania, many people said actually that Ugandan security was involved in the violence that took place in Tanzania. Their election, but after the election, Museveni was the first one to go show up and congratulate President Suluhu and to normalize what had just happened. I remember seeing a tweet at some point saying like, these presidents are just in a group chat copying each other or something. Which, I mean, it seems true. Even in Tanzania, if something like that could happen in Tanzania, I mean, everyone was shocked. Other questions?
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this. I'm Kenyan. So in 2024, we have the finance bill protest, like what was led by Gen Z. And I'm wondering, like, what do you make of that protest? Because it was like, partyless, we have no leader. Like, I'm wondering, like, what do you think of that, and what can be done in the future to hold our leaders accountable?
Thank you. Those young people of Kenya are such an inspiration. That is the way to go. And I would encourage all the young people of East Africa and indeed the world to emulate that, to be tribeless, to be partyless, and to be religionless, but to look at the truth, to look at what serves everybody, what makes everybody equal, and go for that. For so many, and I'm calling upon young people to be partyless. I'm a leader of a political party, but I always tell the young people of Uganda and indeed East Africa and Africa not to be boxed to their political parties, but to follow what is right and do that. At least they were able to push back against that bill, and it was thrown out. Today, and Anselm talked about it, today there's a new bill in Uganda. I've been told by many leaders that it was introduced after I escaped out of Uganda, and the regime knew that once I'm out of Uganda, my big mouth is going to cost them. And therefore, they are bringing a law that declares every Ugandan that walks out of Uganda a foreigner. Oh yeah. It's that shocking, but that's exactly what's happening in Uganda. And to forbid any sending of money back home without going through a minister. So if you are Ugandan and you want to send your sick relative money to go to hospital, you have to get permission from the minister. Why? Because they fear that those that are supporting the opposition are going to be sending money back home. For anybody that leaves Uganda is a foreigner, even if you hold a Ugandan passport and you left last week. And anybody that you send money back home is regarded an agent of a foreigner. And if you receive money without the permission of the minister, you risk going to jail for 20 years or paying a fine of 2 billion shillings. 2 billion shillings, that's, how much is 2 billion shillings?
$100,000?
No, much more than that, yeah.
400,000.
Yeah, thereabout. So, that, in a way, is ruled by law. But for the young people to be able to stop that, they should be able to push back. Like I said earlier on, it's risky, but sometimes the solution is in the risk.
Yeah, and I mean, these laws have histories, right? Like, these laws have been around in places like Russia for a long time. There's like an authoritarian playbook that our governments are really good at trying to emulate. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joe. I'm Ugandan. Let me start by saying, first of all, my mother loves you.
Send her my love too.
As much as she loves Best, yeah. She watches the news every day and she's always organized about what's going on. And my question is with regards to how you transition to the next chapter. So what keeps her up at night, what really troubles her is the threat of violence. So she wants to transition from the government you have right now, but her fear is that to do that, there will have to be violence. And I think what happened in the 70s and the 80s, she got through that time. So there's a sense in that she's sort of fine with the status quo, as long as, it doesn't lead to thousands of people dying. So how do we sort of address that issue that affects, most of minds of many Ugandans, in that they want a better life, but they're not pay a terrible cost. I think what's happening in Libya or Sudan sort of get to that point. So how do you bridge that gap?
Thank you. That's interesting. And indeed, it is the threat of violence that has in many ways kept us where we are. Back in Uganda, especially with the older generation, Museveni and his people have more or less made it clear that if you don't vote for me, there will be war. In northern Uganda, we go a campaign and say, Bobi, we support you. But when we vote for you, there will be war. And you ask them, where is the war going to come from? Say, Museveni will fight. This is a person that started a war in 1980, and it consumed 500,000 people. The sacrifice was given, and it was supposed to be the end of the cycle of violence. But for him to always threaten people with violence if he's voted out, that is what has kept our people boxed down. And indeed, Mama says it, that, you see now, let us just sit down and leave the man, because if we vote him out, he will fight. That's intimidation. I'll tell you that before I started dressing like this and trying to speak straight English, I was a bad boy from the ghetto. And I know a thing or two about violence. And the generation that I lead is young, is hungry, and angry. We have very little to lose, but everything to gain. And we are very capable of violence. But we chose non-violence because we know historically that violence has only bred violence. It only creates a vicious circle of violence. It breeds this sense of entitlement. Oh, we earned it, we spilled our blood, so you can't tell us that. I mean, we've learned that from the Museveni generation. That's why we are non-violent. But unfortunately, regardless of how non-violent we've been met with extreme violence, abductions, killings, and everything. We have preached non-violence all through the campaign. But on the day of election, I was raided. I was put under house arrest. Just less than 24 hours after the election, I was raided and I was forced out of my country. So while we believe in non-violence, we are slowly getting to a level where I will not be able to control the young people that want to free themselves by any means necessary. So the best way to avoid this violence is to have Museveni go peacefully. As a matter of fact, there are some people, many people who are beginning to persuade me to look more the Malcolm X way and say sometimes you have to pick up a gun to put down a gun. That is not what I'm encouraging, but I didn't say I'm discouraging it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think also just on this question of violence, I have a lot of friends who say similar things, like, what will happen, you know, like maybe we'll be brought back into a war. But I took a trip to Kidepo recently. I mean, these areas in the north were really only pacified very recently. People have memories of like violence and fighting that was extremely traumatic, way beyond into like the NRM period. So the question is really peace for whom, right? You know, this is a country that never dispensed with violence, never dispensed with warfare. People are still fighting in lots of parts of Uganda. You know, Uganda's actively engaged in like at least 4 different wars at any given time. So yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So you very aptly recognize that you know, the U.S. is no longer really pushing forward and in the world as it maybe used to be, especially in the current administration. But of course, there are also other powers getting involved in Uganda. The Chinese have you know, launched some projects with the Museveni government under the Belt and Road Initiative. So I was just wondering, what is your general view on Chinese involvement? You know, obviously there's many downsides, and how would you approach these projects if one day, if everything goes well, you can assume your rightful place?
Thank you. As a citizen, I welcome any kind of development. And as a leader, when I'm president, and you notice I say when, not if. When I'm president, I will welcome all kind of moral development. Of course, I differ from Museveni. Museveni has dealt so much with the Chinese and Russians because their collaboration does not come with conditions like the US and the European collaboration used to be. You know, it has no strings of democracy and human rights attached. For them, it is business. They don't care how you treat your people. Unfortunately, the US and likely Europe are seeming to go the China way now. Say, okay, now China is taking business from us. Maybe we should abandon the values and just deal with the dictator the way the Chinese. While that is beneficial in the short run, in the long run, it's very dangerous because they are dealing with an individual and not the people of Uganda. And when we, the people of Uganda, finally free ourselves, we are going to know who our real friends are and we'll make the right decisions then. I don't know if I answer you in a way.
No, that's great, thank you.
Okay, so 2 hands. Here.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. I'm Ugandan myself. I'm from the north, from Arua specifically. And among my friend groups and in the chat, there's 2 sentiments that are echoed. The first is that some people don't think you're serious about really being a political candidate because you spend more time outside and it feels like you're pushing more Bobi Wine the artist and going to award shows. I don't believe it, I'm just sharing. As opposed to being the presidential candidate, that's serious. The second question, if you'll allow, is that your personal bodyguard, Eddie, who's currently being treated like a terrorist for stealing his sweater, what's your plan to help him, especially if you're spending more time out of the country, allegedly, instead of being home?
Thank you. It's interesting. Yeah, for the record, I'm an artist and a good one. In fact, I'm a star. That is supposed to be an advantage, not a disadvantage. You know, it has given me an edge over other politicians. And of course, they're going to fight it, they're going to try to ridicule it, they're going to try to make me sound or seem unserious. Am I serious about being president? Hell yeah! I've run and I've won the presidency twice. You can't be more serious than that. I spend more time outside Uganda than in Uganda. I also want to make it clear that I'm not here voluntarily. I'm here because I ran to exile, although many times I say it, albeit rather in denial that I'm not in exile. But technically I am, because I ran to save my life. Now, those that say that they resemble somebody who's going to beat you and say you cry so loud. I'm not in my country because I want to be alive some more. I want to postpone my execution. Like you are aware, the opposition leader that inspired us, Dr. Kizza Besigye, is in prison, not because he committed a crime, but because he's feared. That's why he's in prison. If I was in my country, I would either be dead or in prison or somewhere being tortured. Now nobody enjoys being tortured. And in any case, I think I serve the struggle more when I am here advancing the struggle than sleeping somewhere in a torture chamber or in a prison or in a grave. So that's again to assert that I'm serious. I was on a campaign trail for 112 days. For all those 112 days of campaign, no other presidential candidate campaigned half the days. But I was on the campaign trail for all those days. That is another mark of seriousness. So I am serious. And the people of Uganda are very serious because they voted for me. And given half the chance, they vote for me again. About my bodyguard, who was abducted by the Chief of Defense Forces, put in his basement. We looked for him until he tweeted and said, don't look for him, I have him in my basement and I'm teaching him Lunyankole. Now Lunyankole is a language of the tribe where General Museveni and his son come from. And indeed, because he was some handsome guy with a big, nice beard, shaved it off, shaved his hair, tortured him, and put pictures of his naked self on Twitter. That was the Chief of Defense Forces doing that. They tortured him for so many days, and later on, he was presented in a court, limping, with missing nails and part of the finger missing, and he was charged for stealing a sweater. Now, and please don't be offended, but I feel mocked when I'm asked what I am planning to do to save him, since I'm always outside the country. This that I'm doing, I'm trying to save not just him, but the thousands of people. At least Eddie is lucky that his name is known by you and the world. But there's so many unknown people that are being tortured, that are in prison with no crime. By doing this, at least I am advancing the plight. Maybe one of you will tweet it and an influential person will see it. Maybe among the young people or the lecturers in Colombia will pick interest in his case, and that will be the beginning of his salvation. So by being outside the country, I'm advancing his case, I'm advancing the cases of thousands of people in his position. Thank you.
Okay, there are a bunch of hands. I think I saw you first, and then we'll go back to you. Do you want to go first?
My name is Nami Anzi, and my question is like a mix of three questions I have. So if Museveni relinquished power today peacefully, what would you do to optimize and capitalize on Ugandan industry specifically, since you say that business is going to be Ugandan aid? And what policies do you plan to change to execute that plan? And then what no's are you willing to say to that presidential part that does have these advantages if you're a president of Uganda today? What are you willing to sacrifice by saying no to some of their injustice practices right now?
Thank you. Your English seems to be a little fast. Let me just make sure I get your question. Number one, if you could repeat your question, but a little slower.
Three parts, I can say it again. So the first part is, well, Museveni relinquishing power peacefully. What are the changes you want to take right now, specifically in the business realm? What Ugandan industry do you think you want to capitalize initially? And then what no's are you willing to say to the East African coalition of presidents that to not be in that club, as you said? What are you willing to sacrifice?
Thank you very much. The first question was about business.
Yes.
Yeah. How do I hope to make business better in Uganda? Cut down corruption. In the days when we just got independence and 10, 20 years that followed, President Milton Obote reduced our problem to poverty, ignorance, and disease. And he was right. Today, Uganda's problem is square corruption. Corruption in every sector. We lose 10 trillion every year to corruption, according to the Inspector General of Government. So, if we crack down on corruption, things will work better. And of course, that only takes the political will. Because, again, according to the same Inspector General of Government that is employed by the President, she mentioned it that every huge corruption scandal is followed to the doorstep of the President. We have a President that has turned corruption into a currency. He has weaponized it. So if we crack down on corruption, then most things will be functional. And what sacrifice do I hope to give to end to stop making the East African Community Club the lust for power? As soon as I'm president, the first thing I want to do is to make sure I don't stay president. Now, the lust for power has been our problem. It has caused most problems because the leaders that want to stay in power will give up everything to stay in power. They'll give up the morality. They'll accept everything to stay in power. But if one is not lustful for power, then they will do the right thing. Because by doing the right thing, then you're not holding power onto yourself. You're spreading power to where it's supposed to be, in the institutions. Thank you.
Okay. So here, and then this is your gentleman back there. Or, okay, go ahead.
I don't have too much to say. Because, Mr. President, you don't know me, but you know me. I'm one of the survivors. I was from Delaware. I missed last time. I was talking to some of the people they cannot, they thought to give me a contract and not money. I've been talking to Waiswa for a long time, and I've been receiving my messages until it was jailed and I couldn't get communication with you. I was arrested during the COVID time. I survived it. I will not say, tell you that people helped me because in the what? In the government. But most especially,
I helped you.
a lot. The reason why I don't come in this conference because of the people. I thought this place would be more safer to talk. Because that time, Black was arrested with one of the journalists. You know that person? You came out and say one of the journalists called so and so is in torture chamber
Yeah. You are the guy?
I'm the one. My messages towards the campaign. I don't know whether you have that program or you see my message through record. At the time I send a message, Bobi, you don't need to go around and campaign. You just meet there, give them a song, move away, you don't have time to explain. I don't know whether you've seen that message. And he told me, yeah, he got that message.
But when I sing, they'll say I'm serious. I like to get, please go.
Please do this to me. Don't go with security, your security in different places. Everywhere you have people, leave those people away from you. Leave them stay at their places. Because once you go with them, they're going to arrest them. Please don't move with them. I sent that message, but afterwards, I saw that I don't see any people around you, those campaign, those bodyguard of that happening. I really appreciate it. Because once I come out from Nigeria, I called Zach. We talked a lot. And my lawyer was killed.
Please ask your question. Maybe we can interact to give everybody else chance. I'm sorry. Looks like you and I need to have a lengthy conversation.
Yeah, that's why I talk like this. I don't talk too much, but I give you the hint so that you can listen. We'll get time and talk.
Sure.
My lawyer was killed as poison.
Who was that?
My best friend was also dead at temporary. Hakim.
Is that Bomeli?
Hakim. Lega. Was a Muslim lawyer.
Yeah.
The leader of Muslim lawyer. You know that he It's an empty town, that's what we say. Me, I'm here at this moment. But people around me were killed. I cannot explain a lot of people who was killed in that process. But myself, I'm the only person I think who survived. Because I went in every chamber, like 5 chambers, torture chambers, and I survived. Your voice helped me a lot. The reason why I was tortured for, I didn't so beaten, they didn't beat me too much because of some of the people I told you why they didn't beat me too much. Please, I don't want to think about that because I've seen a lot of things. You people, my sister, if I see someone talking about that boy, I call him boy because he's young to me. You don't know. You never reach that extent. People are suffering. People are suffering. Maybe you know people around you, those are arrested at this moment. But you don't know what happened there before you come, you came. Zaki came in another prison. I was somewhere. They told me Zaki there. They released me. You know what I mean? Releasing you from that. For you to think Zaki was arrested. Not so. But moving you from that place to come to Zaki's place was like coming from Uganda to New York. I helped Zaki to write that message. With some. You know, and call this person the father of Zaki. You know where he is. They noticed that maybe I'm among those people who make an information. People know where he is.